All right, guys, welcome back. It's me, Daniel, with VintageMagic.com, and we have a special guest, Dan Frazier, from who did the Mox Jet. Dan, you look great.
Disappointment. So much disappointment.
Dan Frazier. No, I'm just kidding, guys. It's my friend Clint. Clint has been on other videos before.
Yeah.
We're actually playing at the Horde weekend tomorrow. There's a
Border Brawl.
Border Brawl. So we're representing what? Washington State?
Yeah,
apparently.
Washington State versus Oregon State.
It's gonna be a bunch of people playing, and hopefully we're gonna get about 30 players. It'll be fun. All right, today is Finance Fridays, and I wanted Clint as a special guest to talk about. Well, you guys guessed it. It is
gold.
Gold.
We got to talk about gold.
Edwin knows all about gold. Edwin's gonna be like, again, trolling me. So this is what collector's edition is, guys, and international.
About rarity.
Talk about what international edition and collector's edition briefly to people who don't know.
Sure. So if anyone doesn't know what collector's edition and international edition are, early on in Magic, I think the first year of Magic, maybe the second, they printed collector's edition sets that had a box set with every single card from the set in it, plus like 12 of each basic land, like 6 of each art. They originally ordered 10,000 of the collector's edition. They were shorted. They got 9,000, but orders were going through the roof. So they ordered an additional 5,000 that they named International Edition. The intent was to sell those overseas, but that didn't really happen. Well, for a long time, International and Collector's Edition were super ignored. Basically garbage. Because they're not tournament legal. Nobody ever played with them. They were a toy, a lot like those World Series decks or whatever they are, right? But recently, people have been playing them in old school, and people are starting to take them more seriously now, which is really good. I love an International Collector's Edition card. They have square corners, gold backs, and collectors say Collector's Edition on the back. International say International Edition on the back. They're really nice, really pretty cards.
All right, so therefore, Eternal Central rules, right? That's what's accepted right now. And then there's the Swedish gods who have yet to accept it. Yeah. So, Clint, why don't you, for those of you, who are watching this channel, you guys probably already know what it is. What's the real recent news? At Eternal Weekend, they recently accepted, first time ever, right?
Yeah,
first time
ever in a Wizard sanctioned event.
First time ever, a sanctioned event, they allowed it in the
old school tournament.
In the tournament, yeah. Mm-hmm. So you can actually use them as what do you call it? Like
to play with in the tournament, yeah.
Normally you don't do that.
Correct, yeah. And there's also, I've been talking to some people, Aaron, a friend of mine, and it turns out that I guess in Europe a lot of people are moving towards what's called the Ravenna rules, named after the people in Italy who started playing that way, which is where they've also started allowing Revised Edition and Collector's International Edition cards.
Oh, really? That's
neat. So people are starting to play with them more just kind of in general. Yeah.
So it's growing quite a bit.
In acceptability. Yeah. In acceptability. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, so today's Finance Friday. So Clint is obviously, he's a pro Collector's Edition, International Edition fan. So if you guys are not pro Collector's Edition, International Edition, put your comments below why you're not liking them and explain why. We've heard everything, but we would like to hear your comments. Clint will try to respond to some of those. But Clint, tell us the benefits financially, and also talk about like how the game is also better with them around.
Gotcha. So let's start with the game, because we can do that quicker because it's Finance Friday, and then we'll do more about the finance. So the game is, right, like we want more people to play old school, theoretically, I suppose. I want more people to play old school. I like the cards. I also like what it represents. It represents players making decisions about what we're going to play with versus allowing the mothership wizards to make decisions about what we want to play with. And I'm a very libertarian type person, so I like the idea of playing stuff that's outside of Wizards, outside of Wizards' control. I like the symbology of it. And also, because there's, 14,000 of each of the Power 9 of all of the restricted cards, it really almost doubles the number of players who can play old school with power, right? Just because you're allowing collectors in International Edition. And I think that's important. I think it's too many. It's too many. It's almost doubling the population. It's almost doubling the population. So that's why I like playing with it. Let's move on to the finance now. For a long time, Collector's Edition and International Edition were viewed as basically the same. Because people are actually starting to buy them now, that's changing. There are some times and in some cases where people treat them the same. But in general, I would say people who are buying these cards are smart enough to know if you can get an International Edition card for the same price as you can get a Collector's Edition, to buy the International Edition. That's basically a no-brainer. And so it's driving up International Edition prices, and then people who want International Edition, like me, over Collector's Edition are willing to pay an additional premium. So there's that aspect of it. There's almost double the Collector's Edition that there is the International Edition. But then in general, the state of Collector's Edition, International Edition now is all new. There's a lot of price discovery that's happening in the market, a lot of ups and downs in the market, especially in non-Power 9, non-restricted list cards. Like, the market has really found a good spot for the Power 9, the restricted cards. Those restricted cards, people want them enough that the price has fired basically to where it should be. I would not invest heavily if you need the cards and if you want the cards. Wait for deals to show up. Don't just buy the first ones you see. Because just like any Magic cards, you can get them for a little bit better price if you pay attention, but the price that people are asking, retailers are asking now, is a little high. And I say that because when you buy a box of Collector's Edition or an International Edition, all of that Power 9 set is pre-assembled. And so the cost of the time, the value, the energy in assembling a Power 9 set is non-existent. And so there's more of them. It's because they're easier to create, there's just more of them. So what we have is lots of vendors have lots of sets of Power 9, a Collector's Edition, especially because, you know, the prices went up so fast. And so there's a lot of availability in the market, and you only need one, right? You only need one Lotus to play. So there's a lot of availability. I don't think the prices are going up. I think they're going to start settling. Yeah, I think they're going to start settling. So secondly is the commons and uncommons, which are much more interesting in my opinion. Because when you look at Alpha, for example, I believe there's 16,000 of every Alpha common printed. You can help me out, Dan, if you want. But I think there's 16,000, right? There's
approximately.
Approximately. There's 5,000 International Edition cards, right? Now, of course, Alpha will always be more desired than International Edition cards, or at least in the obvious near term than 10 years now. 20 years out, it's hard to say. But for the next 10 years, for sure, Alpha cards will be more than International Edition cards. But it is important to understand how few of the commons there are, right? There are the same number of play sets of International Edition Lightning Bolts as there are Alpha Lotuses. Also, the kind of Rudy's Bazaar of Baghdad theory, the cards weren't valued, and so a lot of them got destroyed, a lot of them disappeared, a lot of them were then also actively sought out. People actively sought out International Edition and Collector's Edition cards to destroy them, to create the rebacks, right? People were financially incentivized to destroy the things, and so they're additionally hard to find. And then, when you want to make a play set, anytime somebody opens one box, because this happens on occasion, someone will buy a box and they'll release it into the market. They'll sell all the cards. And when somebody does that, they release an entire play set of Power 9. They release one of every common, every 4 of playable. So if you're looking to get if there are no lightning bolts in the market and you want 4 lightning bolts, there has to be 4 sets open, 4 box sets. And there's not a lot of those box sets out there.
And how much are the boxes now, the sets?
The sets, I think there's one on eBay right now for 15.
15.
For 15,000.
Yeah.
15,000.
Wow.
So this is what I predict will happen.
Wow.
This is what I predict will happen overall with the price of international and collector's edition sets. I believe that the market hasn't really discovered the real, like, insane rarity of 5,000 lightning bolts, right? We're talking like maybe double or triple the number of Summer Magic lightning bolts. Like they're extremely rare when you compare them to any other version of lightning bolts. And they're unique. They have square corners, they have gold backs, they are good looking. They are very good looking. They're aesthetically pleasing.
Like Rudy's mom.
I forgot where I was going with that, Dan.
Well, still running, so, you know,
Is there anything else that you feel that collectors and international editions financially? I mean, how about this?
I remember where I was.
How about downside? Any downside risk? Seriously, any serious downside
risk? Let me finish the point that I was about to make, because it's an important point. I expect the boxes of International Edition to slowly drift upward as people begin to realize how desirable the commons or uncommons are, but not by that much. What I predict will happen more is that the prices will begin to shift away from the cards that are restricted, the cards that people only need one of, the cards that card shops have largest supplies of, right? The restricted lift cards, the Power 9. I believe that those prices will begin to shift and the value will begin to shift more towards the commons and uncommons. Downside. The downside is important. The downside to Collector's Edition and International Edition cards is the market is extremely volatile right now. It's hard to say, right? If you see a Collector's Edition Counterspell, there's a near mint one right now on TCG Player for $60. And there's a couple. I think there's another one that's lightly played on there, right? So there's 2 of them for sale, and you don't know when the next one will come. And so somebody might overprice a card, and it's hard to say because there's only 1 or 2 for sale on the internet at a time. And so it's hard to, it's basically impossible to tell whether the price has risen that much if someone lists a card, or if, you know, they've overlisted the card. If they've overlisted the card or the price is really rising that much, it's hard to tell until the card sells. And so if you're moving into Collector's Edition and International Edition, I suggest waiting for sure on any of the Power 9. The Power 9 are, if anything, if the market falls, people who own those cards are most likely to sell them. I think they're the people who have the least amount of financial stability because they're the cheapest cards, right? Dan's talked about that before. As you move up in the price of cards, the people holding them become more and more stable. And Collector's Edition, International Edition cards are on the bottom. And so if you ask if there's a recession, which one's going to lose value faster, you know, a Unlimited Lotus or a Collector's Edition Lotus, there is certainly more risk on the International Edition and the Collector's Edition Lotuses.
Really? You think that?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
So you're following that philosophy of the more volatile,
kind of entry-level point collectible.
Yeah,
will have downside
more
risk.
volatile,
Yeah.
entry-level collectible. But that could very easily be wrong, right? We might move into that market and people will have realized how rare they are, how cool they are, and started collecting them. But I would be really surprised if those cards, if all Magic cards lose value. I would be surprised if Collector's Edition, International Edition, Power 9 didn't lose more value than their comparables, right? Than the Unlimited and things like that. And that's based off of of market availability, right? Market availability. Retailers don't like holding cards. Retailers are about cash flow in general. They don't care. They don't care as long as they're turning a profit. I mean, you know, I don't know. You have to ask Gabe at ABU Games or whatever. He's got a bunch of them.
So you're bullish on Collector's Edition, International Edition,
Commons and uncommons.
So not the rares.
Not so much the rares.
What?
Not so much the rares.
Why not?
Just because like for example, Sheevan Dragon, right? So Sheevan Dragon International Edition is $100 to $200. I wouldn't pay any more than $120 for a near mint International Edition Sheevan Dragon. That's what I'd be, if I was looking to buy one today, I wouldn't pay any more than that for sure. And I would be hoping to get it for something like 80, doing like eBay 10% off day or something like that. Now, how many of those do people really need, right? And are people, like, if Wizards allows Collector's Edition, and it, like, because one of the big plays that you're making with Collector's and International Edition is that the market for them is going to expand rapidly because they're going to become more viable in tournaments. That's basically the play that you're making. You know, there's, because you could, if you're not making that play, you're better off buying alpha. You're better off buying beta. Like, if you're just betting on if you're just investing in the old school market, those are a better investment unless you are looking for the additional volatility, the additional risk down, but also the additional risk up of that black swan type event where Wizards makes them legal. And if Wizards makes them legal, Lightning Bolt, right? Lightning Bolt is a 4 of in every format that it's legal, which is basically every format but standard. Right? And so, you know, cards like Lightning Bolt are the ones that are going to go through the roof. The cards, like, if Wizards makes International Edition legal, how many people are going to go say, okay, well, I want 4 Lightning Bolts?
I don't understand why the financial aspect of buying the rares is bad. I mean, some of the cheaper rares are low. Mm-hmm. Like some of the Disrupting Sectors are $10 or... I mean, Ancestral has gone up, stuff like that, the playables, but there's ones that are just like more of like, let's say, it's like Sleight of Mind. I picked up one for $2 the other day, or $5. I mean, or so all those cheaper rares are $5. Mm-hmm. Is that a bad buy at $5?
Well, so that's a different game. Now we're talking about basically penny stocks,
like collectible, right? Yeah.
You're dealing with penny stocks, which is not a necessarily bad deal, right? Like, I own a big stack of International Edition cards that I got for like 50 cents a piece. You know, like White Ward, Blue Ward, all of the walls. All of the walls are so pretty, right? And they're very, very rare. And you can get them for $1 or $2. And so, you know, the risk there is relatively low per card, especially if you're only going in $5, $10. But if you're going to put $100 or $200 or $300 or something like that into these commons, these penny stocks, you got to understand that that's what you're basically doing, is you're playing a penny stock. There's extreme volatility. Like, the cards could just be worth nothing. People could not care, right? You know, you can pick up alpha commons that nobody wants for $10, $5, right? The same might be true for Collectors and International Edition. It's hard to say. Like I said, I own a bunch of them because I think there's that extreme volatility there. And I'm very volatile. I've got any money that I've got tied up, I need to expect high gains. And I have to expect that it's basically zero value, right? Because I've got student loans. And so if I sell a Magic card and I want to roll it back into Magic cards, I need high gains or it's not worth it for me. And I like the cards. Right?
All right, so last question. So sum it all up. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? What is your best advice for someone trying to get into this type of market?
Sure, yeah.
And what are some of the tips that you would have, and some cautions, and some strategies and all that?
Gotcha. So if anyone's trying to get into the market, be patient. There's lots of cards out there. And you might not be able to get, like, say you want Jadam Tomes, 4 International Jadam Tomes. And so, anyway, so we'll just move on. 4 International Jadam Tomes. If that's what you want, don't be afraid to pick up things like Counterspell, Disenchant, Savannah Lions, because if you can get other International Edition cards at a good deal, it's likely that at some point you will either be able to sell those cards and get the ones that you want, or trade them. Because the cards are so rare and there's so few, if you just go after Jadam Tomes when you see them, you're going to end up paying premiums because you've got to have that one. If you start buying every International Jadam Tome that you see, you might not get a playset for 2 months. So but that would cause you to buy in a hyped up market sometimes. So don't do that. If a card goes up, let it go, move on, right? If you see a good deal on something else, jump into that. Because the market is so volatile, you can get stung by it, but you can also use it to your advantage. Buy cards when you see them going way lower, right? That's what I would do. I'd focus on commons, uncommons. Don't try to go directly after the cards you're looking for. The cards are too rare. The market's too volatile. Take your time. Be patient. Be willing to be open to other options.
All right, Clint. Well, thanks for your time. Thanks again, guys. We're going to have a lot of great content for the Border Brawl coming up. We're going to go do some play testing. Wait for our friend Steven to go ahead and get from Oregon. We're going to have a lot of footage about that. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Hope you guys learned something from the video, and we're going to have a lot of great content coming up. Thanks again, Clint. Good luck in the tournament. You suck.
You suck. You're going down.
You suck.